Optimum Balance Model, or simply OBM, Model of Life and the Human Nature. We need models to understand complex structures like life or the human nature. Models helps us to fill the gap between theory and practice. OBM based on systems thinking in theory and Ericksonian psychotherapy in practice. But I've re-evaluated these two from OBM perspective. Story of OBM started in 2004. OBM has been formed as an integrative model by examining life and human as a system. Since then, it has identified many of the basic dynamics and relationships of life and unconscious mind. So there is an applicable model right now. Before the model was formed, I remember I made huge effort to understand myself, others, and life since my university days, namely 1984. And these efforts have reached a conclusion of 4 big models and hundreds of submodels. The first model of OBM is about an environment and the relationships of the systems in that environment. We call the environment as natural system, and we call the systems who live in that environment as regulatory systems. If we talk about individuals, we can call these regulatory systems as our identities. For example, an average person lives in 3 main environments. These are family, business life, and social environment. And we've tried to form different identities for each one of them. For example, for family, we form parent, sibling, spouse, and daughter or son identity. Each one of these identities has different perception, priorities, skills, or behaviors. If we clarify the first main model, we see this schema. Regulatory system firstly needs a selective perception to collect necessary data from the natural system. Then, in order to understand those data, it needs a map about the natural system. Then it needs behavior to react, and finally, in order to react, it needs skills. And skills emerges in appropriate emotional states. If all these components work properly, harmony is formed between the natural and regulatory system. And these parts are the sources of our problems, of our identities. The second model of OBM stems from the first model. Best keywords which describe life or natural system can be order and disorder. The best keywords for regulatory system can be adaptation and non-adaptation. And when these two axes come together, it forms the plus sign that means the basic map of human nature. In an unstable natural system, stimuluses increase and they become uncertain. And in such a condition, people should be extrovert, active, fast, and controller in order to perceive threats and opportunities. If the natural system is stable, we get used to it easily, and we don't need to pay attention outside. In this case, our attention goes inside, and we perform in autopilot. We get slow, passive, and go with the flow. When we look at this map, we see 4 quadrants. We call it success to adapt to disorder. If we can't adapt to disorder, this means anxiety. We call it depression to introvert non-adaptation, and we call it inner peace to introvert adaptation. Where happiness locates is the balance between extrovert adaptation and introvert adaptation, or between success and inner peace. This is the area that we also call optimum balance area. And in this map, there are some areas we mostly live. We call them our psychological base. For example, person A's base can be larger and in success quadrant, but person B's base can be narrower and in depression quadrant. Furthermore, The same person's different identities has different bases. In this example, we can say that this woman's business and mother identities have better regulatory systems, but her spouse identity has a poor regulatory system. And we can see the main goal of OBM in this schema: to create a healthy regulatory system for each identity and take them to optimum balance area. The third main model of OBM is about how we move from one area to another. There are many thresholds in big plus sign, and each one of them has different structures. So as to move among these thresholds, we need to know how to manage the change. We call the third model as general success loop. It shows us how can be a system changed. If you apply this to an individual, you can call this therapy. If you apply this to a family, then you can call it family therapy. If you apply this to a company, then it's an organizational transformation. And if you apply this to a society, you can call it leadership. And our fourth model is wisdom. It's the necessary tool to establish a sustainable system in optimum balance area. It's formed by intelligence, heart, and labor. And there is a balance in the center. Intelligence, heart, and labor has components. When we combine them in right order, we can reach optimum balance. Intelligence and labor brings success, but heart brings inner peace. It tells us how we can reach to sustainable success without giving up our humanity. This is the summary of OBM. For me, it takes 45 full days to teach it to our psychologist and MD students. Within these four models, there is the story of all mankind and life. Welcome.